Welcome back to Pancratos MMA, and today I'm going to do a video on what to do with the UFC Heavyweight Division. Now that we've gotten rid of the logjam that was John Jones's heavyweight title reign, and now Tom Aspinall is the rightful UFC Undisputed Heavyweight Champion, we have a lot of fights that need to happen, and we really need to get this division moving again. So I'm going to go through what I think are the top fights to be made in the division and really just lay out a groundwork for what the UFC should be doing over the next 6 months. To be honest, we've had a light schedule of heavyweight fights recently, and I think one of the great things about that is that now, over the next 6 months, we can really sort out the heavyweight division and we can really figure out who is the best at the top of the heavyweight division. Because we've had a few guys who haven't fought each other. We have a few guys at even in the middle who really need to. We really need to like have this shake out a bit so that we can see who is the next to come up to challenge Aspinall for the heavyweight title. So I'm just going to hop right into it with a couple of fights that are already booked. So we have Derek Lewis and Talison Teixeira, which is coming up pretty soon in July. And we have Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta in August. Now, these guys are in the top 15, so I've included them in here. And I just wanted to go over these fights. And I think that this is kind of what we need going forward in the heavyweight division is some new blood coming in against some of the old guard. And I think that this is some really great matchmaking by the UFC here. We've got some guys who are newer to the division, like Cortez Acosta and Sergey Pavlovich are the same age, but Pavlovich has been around and he's been knocking people out for a few years in the UFC, whereas Cortez Acosta hasn't been able to, he hasn't been up that high yet. He's moving into the heavyweight division. So it'll be good to see how he stacks up against Pavlovich. Talison Teixeira, on the other hand, we haven't seen much of him. It's pretty crazy to me that he already has a 13 number next to his name, but I think that it is pretty obvious that the heavyweight division is light on fighters. I was actually on the UFC website the other day looking up some information for this video, and looking up the heavyweights on their website, if you search by heavyweight, you don't have a lot of guys that even have pictures. Most of them are just outlines, dark forms in the mists. So it's not really a deep division. So I'm sure that that's why Talison is up there. I think his last win was against Tafa. So that's going to be a good fight. Him and Derek Lewis. He's a rangy guy. He's got a little bit extra reach. But Derek Lewis, in the past, has been able to deal with some of the taller guys and do it well. Derek Lewis has fought Volkov. He's fought a lot of guys. I'm wanting to say Chris Curtis, but it's not Chris Curtis. It's taller Chris Curtis. It's Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, and he knocked out Curtis Blades pretty emphatically. And if I remember correctly, he took. Did he take? Did he take Volkov to a decision? Or did he knock him out? Has he not fought Volkov? So Derek Lewis did knock out Alexander Volkov back in 2018. It was just a little bit further back than I was expecting it to be. He has quite the resume. It hasn't been great over the last few years, but prior to that, knocked out Marcin Tybura, knocked out Volkov, decision Francis Ngannou, knocked out Curtis Blades, knocked out Alexei Oleinik. A lot of really good fighters But now he's facing Taliesin Teixeira, who is kind of new blood. 8-0, hasn't really been tested too much yet, but hopefully we will be able to see a new heavyweight, a young heavyweight, 25 years old, come into his own here. And if Derek Lewis wins, then we've got, a KO king still in the heavyweight division. Teixeira also has never been the distance. Derek Lewis has been the distance a few times. I think that it will be interesting to see if Derek Lewis can put the cardio on Taliesin Teixeira. That would be hilarious in my mind. Sergey Pavlovich versus Cortez Acosta. I think Pavlovich, if he can get out of his own mind, he might be able to really make another run for the title. I think that the last couple of fights that he has had have been hard on him mentally, because he fought Tom Aspinall, and I think that he lost. I don't think he was expecting to lose to Aspinall, especially by knockout. And then fighting Volkov, who was a former teammate, I think he genuinely didn't want to hurt him. I think both of them, because if you watch that fight, those guys are not fighting in the way that they usually do. Pavlovich isn't winging in, swinging. Volkov is piecing him up, and he's picking him apart, but Pavlovich just looks defeated the whole time. And he beat Rosenstruik, but it was by decision. He fought him very carefully the whole time, and I don't know if it's being knocked out by Tom suddenly made him understand that he couldn't just death touch everyone, and now he was going to have to be careful. I mean, the same kind of thing happened to Ngannou, where he couldn't take out Stipe in the first few rounds, and then he got beaten, and then he came back. He decided to be more careful. He fought against Derek Lewis at one of the most boring fights that has ever occurred. And maybe Sergey is coming back smarter and better, and he's going to take Cortez Acosta and beat him like Francis beat Miocic the second time. Maybe not. I do lean towards Pavlovich on that one, but these are great fights. Now, moving into ones that I think should be booked pretty soon. We've got Mick Parkin versus... I really want him to face a veteran. Because Mick Parkin, he's good. He's got great technical ability. He's just not the... He's not the quintessential heavyweight, right? He tends to put in a lot of volume. He tends to have a lot of significant strikes. He wins by decision a lot. And I think that it will be interesting because he just fought Marcin Tybura, who is a crafty vet, who is technically very good, but definitely just in the middle of the pack. He's fought a lot of the top guys, and he's shaken out. We know exactly how skilled Tybura is, and he is right there in the middle, somewhere between 6 and 10 on the heavyweight division standings. And Mick Parkin, I think, has the ability to beat a Marcin Tybura. I think he just needs to focus more on finishing and damage rather than getting the volume out as much as he is. And so I think he needs to fight another crafty vet, probably someone who is outside of the top 15. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, I think, is the perfect choice for that. I think that Rogerio de Lima is coming off a win. He is in the later part of his career. I think that getting a win over him keeps Mick Parkin in the top 15, and then it gives him a little bit more experience in the octagon, and he's able to continue to move forward once he takes out Rogerio de Lima. Or, if you guys can see down here in the bottom right, if Derek Lewis loses to Taliesin Teixeira, I think that Mick Parkin should fight him. and then we could see a little bit more of that. I think he should fight a crafty vet like that, someone who is going to give him more time in the octagon. Now, Derek Lewis might not give him that much time in the octagon, depending on the Lewis that shows up, because sometimes he's willing to just fart around in the cage for an hour with like Almeida or Ngannou that time, and then sometimes he just runs at you, and like with Rogerio de Lima, runs at you and flying knees you, and then he's out of there and he's on the mic saying something wild. So moving on, we've got Tai Tuivasa and Rizvan Kuniev. I think that Kuniev showed his skill against Blades, and Tuivasa, someone needs to take him out of the heavyweight division. Like, he's lost 5 in a row. He is just a really big dude, but he, like, you know, he really should be cutting to like middleweight or something. He's 6'2", his reach is 75 inches. His frame is not a heavyweight frame. He should be cutting a lot of weight and fighting at middleweight or light heavyweight, when in reality he's just he's just one of these blobs at heavyweight who he's got a couple of power punches, but he really doesn't have a lot of skill. He doesn't have a lot of technical ability. And I think Kuniev needs to start climbing up the ranks. He showed how good he was against Blades. Blades is one of my top heavyweights in my opinion. He's amazing. If he blew out his MCL in that fight, then that showed why he was having a hard time with Kuniev. But Kuniev, I feel like, won that second round pretty convincingly. And I think Blades really had to fight in the first and third to take those, and it was close. I think that this fight should happen soon, because I don't feel like Kuniev took a ton of damage in the Blades fight. And I think that Tuivasa, it's coming up on 2 years, or a year since he's fought, and I think that he should get in there and get out of the heavyweight division with a loss to Kuniev. So I feel like this one could happen in August or September. I think Sergey Spivak versus Martin Budaj would be another good fight. I think that we really need some of these guys to start shaking out. Spivak has had a lot of losses to guys who are, I mean, middle of the road contenders, right? Like, he is fine. He does okay, but he lost to Cortez Acosta. He lost to Almeida. He's lost to Gane. Like, he is definitely middle of the pack. And if Martin Budaj wants to move up, he needs to beat some people in that middle range. I think that he's on a 2-win streak, Budaj is, and then Spivak's on a 2-loss streak. I think that matching them up would be the next best thing for them. Marcin Tybura versus Shamil Gaziev. Now, both these guys are on win streaks. Both of them should be moving up. I think that it's kind of depressing to see how many heavyweights are just fat guys, because yet again, the size on these fellas, they could be leaner. they could be fighting at 205 probably. But they're both on 2 win streaks. I think that they need to fight each other to see who gets to move up into that top 5 area, who they should be fighting next. And I think that this will really shake out who is deserving of that. Tybura has been up and down his entire career, moving up, moving down, losing one fight, the next fight. He kind of trades a lot. But I think that's because he also he stays busy. He's fighting like every few months. And he's also fighting guys on the rise a lot of the time. Like, he is the one who has turned away people like Jonata Deniz, people like Alexander Romanov. I think he was his the first guy to really beat him. Walt Harris, Greg Hardy, all these guys are people who were shown the door basically by Marcin Tybura. And Gaziev, if he wants to be the next guy at 14-1, he is trying to be the next guy. He needs to fight someone like Marcin Tybura, who will show us whether he is worth moving up the ranks or if he's going to be a bottom feeder for the rest of his heavyweight career. Moving on, we've got Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes injured his knee in his fight with Kuniev, and I think that means that he's not going to be coming back for a while. So, in the interim, he needs to heal up. I think that an MCL injury is something like 6 to 12 months out. So, if it's going to be something like that, maybe we should wait until Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta is over, and that way that happens in 3 months-ish, and then that would give him another like 3 months-ish to heal, and then he would be able to start getting into the gym and start, moving forward hopefully sometime early next year, February, March, they can get that fight going. And I think that if Pavlovich wins and Blaydes is able to fight him, that will bring us our next contender after the next fight that I am going to propose, which is Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. I think it's important because both of these guys are the ones on the rise in the division in my mind. Volkov has been there forever, but he has really leveled up his game in the last few years. He has always been a staple at the top of the heavyweight division. He loses very infrequently these days. He was trading, but the only people he has ever lost to are people in like the top 3, at least since 2015, right? Like, he lost to Derek Lewis by that KO. He lost to Curtis Blaydes. He's lost to Cyril Gahn twice, and he's lost to Tom Aspinall. The second Cyril Gahn loss, I don't think it was a loss. I think Volkov won. I think that by all scoring criteria, Volkov should have had his hand raised. However, he did lose, and so I feel like that means that he needs to get another win against a surging contender like Jailton Almeida, and he will be able to move on to fight for the heavyweight title after the next fight, or maybe 2 fights, depending on the plan for Aspinall. Now, Jailton Almeida, another guy, he was stopped by Curtis Blaydes in his rise, but he's good. He's small for the heavyweight division. I feel like he could fight at 205, but I don't think he wants to. I think he wants to stay a little bit heavier, and he has again been knocking bottom feeders out. Like Romanov and Spivak, in order to claim his way back up in. And I think at number 5, he should be fighting Alexander Volkov, number 2. Volkov's coming off a loss. He needs to reclaim his spot. And I think that Almeida is the perfect person to do that against, because you'll get a lot of his shine. Even though Almeida is not the most fun person to watch a lot of the time, he has been really upping his game. And he is... he's really showing that he is a finisher. And I think that that's the other thing that Volkov is going to show, is that there are levels to the game against Almeida. And I don't think Almeida has what it takes to beat a Volkov. And then finally, I think Tom Aspinall should fight Cyril Gahn. Now, this is not the most popular of takes. I understand. A lot of people are saying that they want to see Alex Pereira fight Tom Aspinall for heavyweight title, and I get it. I agree. I think that is the biggest fight that you could make. I feel like that's the biggest fight you can make in the heavyweight division right now. However, heavyweight has been jammed for so long that I think pulling a guy out of another division and having him fight for the championship for Tom Aspinall's first heavyweight defense is insane. We need movement in the heavyweight division. We need Tom to prove that he is the best heavyweight. Once he is the best heavyweight, we can have guys from other divisions come in and fight, and we can like cross all our T's, get our legacy, whatever. I think that Tom needs to beat Cyril Gane, because the last two guys who have held the heavyweight strap have beat Cyril Gane. We've got Ngannou and we've got John Jones. I think that Aspinall, with a good, strong, solid performance against Cyril Gane, shows where he is stacked up against those guys. I think that Gane also kind of deserves it. He's beaten a couple of guys. I think he beat Spivak, and then he beat Volkov, even though I don't think he beat Volkov. He beat those guys, and those guys are at the top of the division. He deserves a title shot. We have to have movement in the heavyweight division. We need all of these guys to start shuffling out. And if we have Pereira come in, that's just putting this off one more time. And I don't think that the heavyweight division can stand being on hold much longer. I think that it's important that we get Gane, and then we get Volkov or Almeida, and then we keep moving forward to like a Pavlovich, Blades, something like that. And if one of those guys beats Aspinall, then we have a new heavyweight champion who can start running through people again. But Tom Aspinall's cleared out a lot of guys. He is on a win streak that, if you don't count the Curtis Blades loss, is one of the longest that I've ever seen at heavyweight. So I think that this will be the fight to make. I think that their schedule, since both of them haven't fought this year, should be fairly clear. I think that they could probably have this in August. They could have this in September. They could, I hope that they don't wait until Madison Square Garden in November. I feel like that is a disservice to Aspinall for him to have to stay out that much longer. 2 months from now that he's the heavyweight champion, get him in there in August. At the end of August, let him fight Cyril Gane. Maybe, I know that there's a Paris fight night. Maybe turn that into a pay-per-view and get Aspinall Gane on there and blow the roof off of wherever they're holding that. I think that that's something MMA Guru said. I think that that's a great idea. Moving on, I kind of wanted to talk about some of the guys who were not currently ranked, but interesting fights right on the outside of the top 15. So we've got Kennedy and Nzechukwu? Yeah, I'm not getting it. I'm usually fairly good at names. That one has too many consonants in too many strange places for me to be able to say it well. Versus Walter Walker. I'm a big fan of Walter Walker. He's bringing heel hooks back to the heavyweight division. They should have never left. I don't understand why more heel hooks aren't used in MMA. I'm a BJJ guy, so I think that heel hooks are great. I don't know why you wouldn't attack someone's heel in a way that they can't punch you or kick you. It seems crazy, but Walter Walker's bringing them back 2 in a row, and Kennedy Nzechukwu is strong, power puncher, moved up from 205. Both these guys are about the same weight. I think that it would be a great fight to see who gets into the top 15. I'm looking forward to that one that's coming up in July. Now, this weekend, we've got Jonata Denise versus Alvin Hines. I don't think that the person who wins this one deserves to be in the top 15 yet. But I do think that whoever wins this one gets to fight someone at the bottom of the top 15 next. Or maybe it's them versus the winner of Nzechukwu versus Walker. But I think this also shows the depth of the bench in heavyweight, that Jonata Denise, who just got knocked out of the top 15, is having to fight some random guy from, I think he's from LFA. As they couldn't find a fight for him. I think that's crazy. Now, Alvin Hines, from what I've seen, pretty good guy. Like, he's a good fighter. He's a big dude. Stocky, good at wrestling. I think his current win streak is 7 pro, but I think he had 3 on the amateur scene, so he's like 10. But it'll be a good fight. I'm excited to see that this weekend, so we get some movement at heavyweight, and I'm hoping that that'll be everything. I think that that's all the fights at heavyweight right now, and I think that we can feasibly get most of them done in the next 3 to 5 months, and we can, by Christmas, we'll know, like, this is the state of the heavyweight division. I think that's the reason that I made all of these fights, is to show this is the state of the heavyweight division. These guys are the ones who are on the rise. These guys are the ones who are moving down, and we need to see movement again, because we're getting like one heavyweight fight every 3 months, and that is not enough. We gotta get this rolling. Now that John is out of the way, people can start taking fights again. They're too afraid to do their little, like, oh man, if I just hold on, maybe I'll get to get a title shot. Maybe I'll get to be an eliminator. I'm only at 14. Maybe I can no, like, we're gonna get this done. You're gonna earn your shot. We need to get this finished. All right, that's all I've got for you. Pancratos M&A signing out. If you guys want to see something else, leave it in the comments below. I'm thinking about doing a picks video tomorrow if I can get some time to do it. So just let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.